I could lose an eye, but imagine the pop.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Imagine the Pop Wrestling Podcast. Now, as you know, week to week, we do these rapid fire recaps of Raw and SmackDown that fit into your daily schedule, that fit into your commute, your morning coffee, whatever. But I love the longer form content. I love interviews with wrestlers, with producers, with those that are in the game and know what they're doing. And I've been thinking for a little while about trying to do some of those as well, trying to get some of those onto the podcast, and not just with wrestlers, but also fans and content creators, those that love what we love, because that's what I've loved about doing this journey over the last year or two is getting to meet other wrestling fans from around the world via TikTok, via Instagram, via YouTube, you know, fans that just love the same thing, vibing off the same thing. And I want to continue that with this podcast. And so I'm delighted that JLD, Just Laying Down, has agreed to be number one. You're number one, dude. How are you doing?
What's going on? I appreciate that. I'm very honored to be here. So thank you for sending me the invite. Thank you for thinking of me to be a member of your podcast as a guest. And I'm looking forward to this.
No problem. Thank you, mate. I've seen what you do on TikTok and all sorts. And I feel like we might be like-minded people, because you can get, like, there's a lot of toxicity, there's a lot of extreme fans, there's a lot of tribalism, but I feel that you're one of the good ones. You're level-headed, you've got a good attitude, a good mindset, a good approach to wrestling and talking about wrestling. So I feel like we could vibe quite well.
There's just I just feel like there's so many people that take this too serious, where it's like, like, come on, bro. At the end of the day, there's people from both brands and like any other brand you watch that they're just trying to feed their family and give us a good show. And the fact that people have a problem with that is just, why? Why are you so negative about it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've had people join my lives who are, because I'm a WWE guy. And
Same.
And to be honest, I'm also a family man. I work full time, similar to a lot of people. So actually, to keep up with just one promotion, to keep up with WWE, their weekly shows, with Raw that's 3 hours, SmackDown that's 2 hours. You've got NXT if you're into that as well. You've got pay-per-views. That's a lot to keep on top of, and that's just with one company. And then you've got AEW, TNA, New Japan, etc. So to watch everything is a real commitment. But there are some people that do, and there's some people that try and watch both. Or there's some that find us on live who are big AEW fans, and they don't really watch WWE, but they love professional wrestling, and so they love just talking about it. But when they come on, they say that they hate the tribalism as well. They hate that people from both sides kind of just write each other off.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. If you're an AEW fan, you don't really watch WWE, great. There are fans that actually have logic in their head and will say, you know what, like, I may not watch WWE, but that doesn't mean they're a bad product. That doesn't mean that they just suck. It just means I'm not a fan of it. They always like to say WWE is good at the storytelling, while AEW is more on putting on wrestling matches versus the storytelling. So people have their bias and favoritism towards one or the other, but that's what gives it variety and makes it fun to like want to watch multiple promotions. And I feel like if I were to watch like TNA, New Japan, and all of the indie shows, that would be more if I became full. If I was like doing this full time, then I'd have more time to do it. Like you said, it's a lot already with WWE, with the PLEs, with NXT, Raw, SmackDown. Now WWE Speed is a thing on Twitter, so people are going to be keeping up with that. So to add Dynamite, Rampage, Dynasty from yesterday, Wrestle Kingdom, New Japan shows, it's a lot. And props to those who can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know where some people find the time. I mean, again, I love my followers. Some of them have a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah,
like they do just to watch everything, or to they stay up and watch live. Now, I was going to ask you about this because I'm in the UK, you're in the US. Are you on the East Coast in the US?
I'm in New York, so East Coast.
New York, okay. So here's the thing: straight away we've got a divide because you get Raw and SmackDown every single week, prime time television, right?
Yep.
Whereas in the UK,
right after work. Yep.
Yeah, we have to wait until 1 o'clock in the morning if we want to watch it live, and the struggle is real. I don't know if you've spoken to many like fans in Europe and around the world. The struggle is real to try and watch it in real time. But there are fans that do. I have followers and I have people that come on my live who do stay up every Monday night, every Friday, and they watch all the way through, all full commitment through like seriously. 4 a.m.
I can only imagine the people in Australia.
Well, yeah. Well,
I mean, again, to be fair, though, Australia is like 12, 13 hours away, so it's actually morning for them. So it might actually be more reasonable, but I know you guys in the middle, Europe, UK, France, are stuck in the middle of the night.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, we are eating well at the minute because we've got 3 premium live events coming up in the next few months. We've got Clash at the Castle that's in Glasgow, Backlash in France, and then Bash in Berlin in Germany.
I'm looking forward to Bash in Berlin.
Yeah, so we've got 3 premium live events, and they'll all have a SmackDown before, like the night before as well.
Right. Yeah.
So we're gonna have 3 events that are our time zone. God damn it, we're gonna have 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. to kick off. It's gonna be great.
And that's good for you guys because you guys have like busted your ass staying up till like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Like I have a few Twitch followers of mine that stay up for my stream, and I usually stream from like 7 local time to 10. That's like around that time too. And I tell them too, bro, if you got to go to bed, that's fine. Like, don't feel like you have to like hang out with me because, you know, you enjoy this stuff, which is great. But I also care about your sleep schedule.
Yeah.
So like, I definitely understand that pain. So it's nice that you guys get that. And even for like the US, it's still a reasonable time. A Saturday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, like you guys will have the PLE at nighttime, your time. After it's done, we have dinner and call it a day.
Yeah. Well, I was watching a clip. Some content creators were talking about WrestleMania and talking about how because it's such a long show, maybe shifting it earlier in the day. And they were saying that, like, you know, in America on a Saturday, if you shift it from when it kicks off now to like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that's fine because it's a Saturday. Like, would that?
Yeah.
Do you think that would help, or do you think that would have issues?
I think because when it comes to WrestleMania, usually it's at 7. So by then, people in the US already have like their dinner ready, at least on the East Coast, and then maybe Pacific Coast, which is 3 hours behind us, are usually getting like done with lunch and everything like that. So either way, some time zone gets screwed over in a way. There's no way to satisfy everybody around the world. That's just planet Earth for you. Would I want WrestleMania at like a earlier time? It doesn't really matter to me personally because we're no matter what, whether WWE put it at 4 p.m. or even 1 a.m., people still showing up. I watched Elimination Chamber live. I got up early for it. If I'm able to do it, and I hate getting up early, even though I do get up early anyway, even though I hate it. If I could do it, anybody can. Maybe not everybody, but most people can.
Yeah. Was that a real pain? Was there quite a lot of like fellow fans of yours in America, content creators that were like annoyed that they were having to get up early for Elimination Chamber, or did they just get on with it?
Some people watched it. Some people stood up from the night before to stay up and watch it. I got a few hours of sleep before I went to the living room and watched on the Peacock app. I don't think people were annoyed. I think they were just like, screw it. I'm going to wait till like I get up at 8, 9 in the morning to watch it. They just didn't want to get up that early. It was a good show, but I don't think people would have thought it was a good enough show that it was worth getting up early enough for that. For us, it was about 5 in the morning for Elimination Chamber for us versus Australia was like 12 hours ahead or 14 hours ahead. So by the time it was 8 o'clock or 8 in the morning, I was already done. Like the show was done, and then just go on about my day.
Yeah, well,
and it made for funny content.
Yeah, it did. Because I mean, same for us. Like, there was a load of UK wrestling fans and content creators that were doing this whole thing of like, because it started at like I think pre-show started at 9 a.m. for us. The show started at 9. So everyone was doing these videos about being able to have breakfast like whilst watching a WWE pay-per-view, when normally we're having to stay up through the middle of the night.
Which is shocking for you guys. That was the second time that ever happened in Australia, with the first one being Super Showdown. So like, it's weird saying, "Oh, I'm eating breakfast watching Elimination Chamber," versus, "Oh, I'm like in my blanket watching it on my phone on the WWE network."
Yeah, struggling
like it's a big
to
change.
stay awake. Yeah, and I had not planned to have this conversation at the start of this chat. I really hadn't. But
It was a good one. It's a good one.
Well, the struggle is real. The struggle, like, one thing I've really enjoyed about doing TikTok and Wrestle Talk over the last year or two is obviously meeting all these different fans, and wrestling fandom just spreads like literally from the little kids all the way through to the
adults.
Yeah, to the adults, to the middle-aged men that and women that like have families, that have jobs, and the struggle is real as to whether you can watch every single hour of every single episode, whether you have to do catch up, whether you do the highlights on YouTube or whatever it is, or whether you just listen to a podcast. And like you know, because like, so there's such a variety of like, there's the hardcore fans, the casual fans, and right now with the boom that we're getting, there's the new fans, or there's the people rediscovering it that have, you know, not watched anything for a while, but you know, with The Rock coming back and CM Punk coming back, like people are coming back into it, but you know, they've moved on in their lives, so how do they get back in that flow to watch the product? It's the struggle is real.
And I think that's where we come in a way, as TikTok creators, as YouTube creators, as Instagram creators. I feel like it's not our duty, but if we really want to pop off in this world, we need to give them a reason. And if we can entertain them and inform them in a way like, hey, this is what's going on in wrestling today, this is who's champion, or like in a way that'll get them to want to come back, that's where like everybody's expertise comes into play. Some people have reached out to me on Twitch and have said, yo, JLD, you're the reason that I watch wrestling now again, because you make it funny. So stuff like that is like how we get people into it. Now, am I recruiting people for wrestling? No. It just happens to be my content. And if people like it, and then by all means, great. If it means you're going to watch Raw and see what it's all about, I'm more than happy to be that reason. And then be able to conversate. Like, a lot of my Twitch chat is actually non-wrestling fans. Most of my chat is not wrestling fans. Because I started off as a Fortnite streamer. So that's where I gained all of my like viewers and followers, was through Fortnite and mostly Fortnite for the most part. I know that was going to be one of your questions, so I figured I'd get a little head start on it. But I did a lot of Fortnite streams and stuff. Not too serious about it. And like I met a lot of new people. But since switching and rebranding to wrestling, like, I've tried to make it as entertaining as possible, even if they don't watch wrestling, where they can at least understand if I'm talking about Roman Reigns, if I'm talking about a Rhea Ripley, if I'm talking about a Dominic and like the Bloodline. Like, they might not know who the Bloodline is, but they heard JLD talk about it, so it must be interesting.
Yeah. That's really cool, because I was going to ask about how you got into being a content creator. So you started off with Fortnite streaming. So how long have you been doing this then? Because Fortnite's been around for a little while. So like, how long have you been doing this, in whether it's for wrestling or for Fortnite or whatever?
So my very first stream was May 1st, 2021 on my new computer. And I've been doing this since then. From then until about December or November of 2022, I was doing Fortnite stuff. A lot of Fortnite. I had a podcast in the past called Couch Talk, and I did a lot of variety stuff. So mostly Fortnite, but I dabble in other games. Just, you know, your typical Twitch streamer trying to make it big as a first-person shooter guy. But then, like, I was getting into the TikTok aspect of it and posting content rather than just streaming. And it wasn't really going anywhere. I felt like I was just kind of just there with everybody else. Like everybody's doing the same thing. Everybody's Call of Duty. Everybody's Fortnite. Everybody's Valorant, Apex, all that stuff. So I would randomly incorporate wrestling, random quotes and references in my stream.
Okay.
Until eventually I was like, you know what? Let me make a TikTok of something I saw on Facebook. I don't know if you ever seen those memes online where it's like, oh, you lied on your resume on Indeed, and then you got a match with Randy Orton the next night.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. So I made a TikTok around in 2022 of when you lie on your resume on Indeed and you get the job at WWE. It ended up being, and then I put it where I was in the skit and the Undertaker was my opponent. They were like, oh, you got the job. Now you're facing the Undertaker. And then the gong and all that happens.
Yeah.
20,000 views in the first 24 hours is the most views I ever got on a video. So I freaked out and I was like, okay, interesting. One hit wonder. This was only supposed to be one video and then I go back to Fortnite. So I experimented. Next video, Royal Rumble. You're number one in the Royal Rumble. So I end up in the ring and then Brock Lesnar's music plays. That was the skit. So I'm basically getting destroyed. 100,000 views on the next video. So I was like, okay, Fortnite's not working. I need to do something with this wrestling stuff. And then I just kept going and going. And then eventually I was like, all right, this is my calling. I already love wrestling. I just got back into wrestling from the Bloodline because I took a little break of wrestling from 2019 until then. When the pandemic happened, I wasn't too into the product. But once I started learning about Roman and all that, I got back into it. And then I told my chat, I'm like, yo, I'm rebranding. We're doing wrestling. And ever since then, the rest is history.
Well, and that, to be fair, that is a strong brand and a loyal fan base that you completely switch what your content is. And they've stuck with you. So that means they're invested in you. So it wasn't, they were just watching the Fortnite. You're really good at what you do because they're invested in you and they've stayed with you. Well,
I did lose a bunch of viewers because a lot of them don't watch wrestling, and that's I totally understood that. I knew that going into rebranding, people weren't going to be into it as much, because they also did the same thing. But what I would do is, so a lot of my Twitch content is WWE 2K, and one way I decided that I wanted to incorporate that into my non-fans is make them as characters, simple yet effective. So if one of my mods who doesn't watch wrestling is made as a character, they're fighting one of my other mods who they like to talk crap about in a friendly way.
That is a really cool idea.
So now I got them to join. They don't know nothing about wrestling, but they love seeing their character kick people's asses. Then I made some custom titles, like the JLD Viewers Championship, or whatever. Actually, the belt right here is the one I made for the game. And it just gets them in there. I made channel points where it's like, if you spend 10,000 channel points, you could face the champion of your choice. And a lot of the followers knew each other, so they always wanted to just talk crap to each other and say, yo, I'll see you in the ring. So my stream is where they go. So
that is fantastic.
So my intent was to, even though not everybody watches wrestling, get them interested in a way. Make them want to tune into the stream to see their person win a title.
Yeah. Mate, that's such a great idea because you're absolutely right. Especially with streaming as well, there's so much competition. Even with 2K24 and 2K23, lots of people are doing it. And so how can you stand out? And so you see there are some, especially wrestling streamers, that they do cosplay. And so that's one of the ways that they stand out. But that idea of creating mods of your that's fantastic. That's such a good way to connect with people as well, keep them hooked.
And it just lets the chat troll each other, and it's hilarious because I know how some of them are on their stream, so seeing them seeing one person throw another off the Hell in a Cell is just freaking priceless. Or throwing them in a casket and closing the door, oh, get shit on, you're done.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So you said you took a break from wrestling in 2019, and then you came back to it with Roman. So how long have you been watching wrestling? When did you start? What got you? How old were you? What got you into this world?
My dad to this day still watches it. I got it from him. I've been watching it since I was about 12 years old full time.
Oh
So
wow. Okay.
18, 19 years now. With
Wow.
breaks in between.
Yeah.
I think around the time I was like graduating high school into college was one of my first breaks from it. And then like I think early on into my relationship with my fiance, I stopped for a bit, but then like slowly got back into it slowly but surely. And even then it was pretty casual. It wasn't like what I know now with everything
Mhm.
that's available at our fingertips. It was more just watch it every week and that's it. And then wait till next week.
Yeah. So that's so I'm trying to think 20 years ago. So was that Ruthless Aggression era? Was that
Yeah,
John Cena,
so
Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton?
yep, so it was after WrestleMania 21 where Cena won the title, Batista won the title, that era.
Okay.
And then slowly getting into like Edge winning the title and Rey Mysterio after Eddie passed away, all
Yeah.
that time.
Okay.
Now I knew of it already beforehand, like, but I
Mhm.
never watched it the way I did then. It's like obviously I knew of the Attitude Era, I knew of everybody in the Attitude Era, and before just never got into it until Ruthless Aggression.
Yeah. Okay, because I always find it interesting because I have this black hole of wrestling experience where I'm an Attitude Era guy. I got into it with the Attitude Era. Um, really into it with the Attitude Era. ECW, the original ECW with Paul Heyman, etc. Um, and then I stopped watching just as the Ruthless Aggression era came in. Like we had the WCW, ECW invasion and
The
whatnot, and
Alliance, yep.
that's kind of where I lost track of it. And then I hadn't watched it until literally a couple of weeks before Royal Rumble 2020, and I was like, oh, this is quite interesting. And then Edge shows up at the Royal Rumble.
Yep, Edge, yep.
And
that was emotional.
I knew, yeah, and I knew enough to know that he'd had to stop wrestling, that he'd had an injury, that he like I always kind of kept like in touch with a few things like Brock Lesnar, and but like I hadn't watched it. And so when I'm watching the Royal Rumble and Edge comes back, and I just have this like emotional reaction, and I'm hooked again. That's it. I'm in.
Everybody went crazy.
Yeah, and literally from that point through to now, like even through the pandemic era and the PC and the Thunderdome, I stayed watching through that because I found something to get out of that. So whether it was just the technicality of the wrestling match or whether it was because I'm a film and TV media student as well, so like the way that they tried to produce TV through that era, and I found all of that really interesting, and I think there was some really good underrated matches in that era that don't get the love they get because lots of people, because it was hard to watch. It wasn't wrestling. It wasn't professional wrestling. There was no audience. There was a key part of the puzzle that was missing. But there was still some, like the Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania 37. That was, the PC one. That is a fantastic match. If you go back and watch that match, that is a great match. Or there's one that everybody should watch, which is Ilya Dragunov versus Walter, who's now Gunther.
Walter, yeah.
And it was from NXT UK.
That's when Dragunov won the title from him, right? Or no?
So you know what? I can't remember the finish. I don't. No, it wasn't in that one. No, Walter at that time, Gunther, he retained. But like, because like how Gunther fights, and how Ilya Dragunov fights, yeah. And imagine that, but just in an empty TV studio in London.
Mm-hmm.
So like, there is no crowd. There's nothing to soak up the sounds. It's just two men beating each other. Like It's such a good match. If you haven't seen it, try and find it on the network. Ilya versus Dragunov. It was match of the year, and it was an NXT UK studio match, and it's one of the best matches in years. It was amazing.
It's crazy because the pandemic awakened all of us to the fact that the audience is a core component of how wrestling is so entertaining today. Like, I remember seeing the WrestleMania from that year. What was it, 36? I think it was 36 for the first one in the pandemic. And just hearing Drew McIntyre beat Brock Lesnar, like, you could hear them, like, talking to each other. You can hear them yelling. There's no, you could hear the ref hitting the mat 1, 2, 3. It was so different. I even saw, like, on YouTube that during commercial breaks, they would take a break. Like, they could actually just stop the match because no one's watching. So there's no reason to wrestle. They just take a break and whatever. And then before airtime, they'll go back to their holds or whatever. It was it goes to show, like, what really goes into, like, a wrestling match. And the audience is definitely one core part of it. Obviously, we couldn't do anything at the time, but it just shows, like, there's a lot of moving parts to wrestling. People could say all they want about it, how, like, it sucks or it's fake, but there's a lot of moving parts that they will never understand.
Well, it's amazing. So, I mean, and I know that I'm a fan, and so I'm immediately bought in. I'm a film and TV fan. I'm a theatre fan as well, like musical theatre and live theatre and whatnot. And so I have appreciation for those kind of things. And when you look at what professional wrestling companies, WWE, AEW, TNA, what they all do is every week they put on 2 giant live arena shows every week without a break, and they just go week after week after week after week. And there is a cast of like 40 or 50 characters. There are 10, 12 storylines running, let alone the fact that you're putting on a live arena show. Like, there are productions, there are touring companies that they rehearse for 6 months to a year for this limited run in this one space. And that's a miracle to pull that off. But what WWE do is they have this cast and this crew that go from city to city to city to put up the set, to and it's still quality every single week. Like, there is amazing skill in that.
And people don't understand that. They think that the wrestlers just show up, that they work. Wrestlers, I mean, non-wrestling fans think wrestlers work once a week and they go home, and then next week they come back. Like, no, that's not how it works. And that, like, the technical team and all that, they just do something for like an hour and it's all up and ready. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah. But it was interesting what you said about the pandemic era and losing the crowd. I think coming back from that and having the crowd back, I think that has been part of the boom that WWE have had over the last couple of years. Because I think the crowd realized what they were missing, not just for wrestling, but for live events in general. And it really feels like any wrestler who interacts with the crowd, like, has gotten over. Like, the last 2 or 3 years, if you think of those who have made it big, like MJF, like LA Knight, like
Cody Rhodes,
they're people that give the crowd something to interact with. So you have the chants of LA Knight, or you have the whoa from the song or whatever. Mate, that's why you're a pro. You've got the soundboard right there to go.
Stream Deck and a Go XLR.
I've got some catching up to do. I literally do TikTok, and I've started this podcast thing. Twitch and YouTube and things that you've been doing for a while. I've got to catch up to that.
If you got any questions, let me know, because this was all learning for me. I didn't know this once I started. It was people I reached out to, YouTube videos nonstop. So if you ever have questions, I can offer my advice.
I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. But just that component of the crowd, I think there does seem to have been a shift since we came back from the pandemic, that a live crowd is desperate for interaction, and those wrestlers that interact with them or give them something to work off, like, people are just eating that up at the minute. And I think that's why LA Knight's got big, Cody Rhodes, Chelsea Green, the way that she plays the crowds, like
Chelsea Green.
Mate, I'm a big Chelsea Green fan. I think she's fantastic.
Here's a prediction I have of what's going to happen tonight at the Battle Royal match. Chelsea Green Chelsea Green and Becky Lynch are going to be the final two, or Liv Morgan. Becky or Liv, and Chelsea Green are the final two. They're going to hype up Chelsea. They're going to have the crowd go insane, like Chelsea's about to win the title, and then they're going to throw her over. That's my thoughts on what's going to happen. And if it does happen, I'm going to freaking laugh.
See, because she did, was it at the Rumble where she, or she's done it before in a Battle Royal where she's been out of the ring, but she wasn't over the top rope.
Yes,
and so then and so she came in to try and get the sneaky.
But she lost, unfortunately. They need to push her better because everybody knows she's entertaining, and I think even just the way Samantha Irvin says her name is enough to show that like the crowd loves her.
Yeah, but she's got such a good head for the business. Like she did an interview with Chris Van Vliet.
Yeah,
or is it Chris Van Vliet? How we pronounce it?
Van Lier, I think.
Well, there you go. I see. That's the thing. I don't watch his full show. I just catch things on TikTok.
I don't either.
I just kind of catch his clips. But he did an interview with Chelsea Green, and the clip that I saw was her saying, the mistake people make is that it's all about winning, and it's not. And when you think like if she's got that attitude, and then you realize there's no wonder why she's been so successful since she came back. Like she's not been winning. Yeah, she's had a tag title run. But if you think the women's division, the women's tag team titles, like there is no reason why she should have been on TV as much as she's been on TV for the last 2 years. She has kept herself relevant. Like anybody, any other female wrestler that fit into that kind of mid-lower card women's tag team, like they would just not be on TV half the time. But she just is constantly every week a segment. She
does great at it. I think she should have the opportunity to become a women's champion in a solo run. She was fantastic with Piper Niven. I didn't really think that was going to go far, but it actually did. I think it pushed both of them. And then her run with Sonya Deville was great until, unfortunately, Sonya got injured.
Yes. Yeah.
So she has the potential. And then, like, she's married to Matt Cardona. So, like, that connection is there. And, like, I'm happy with like how she is being pushed, but I mean not pushed, but like at least how she, like you said, she's stayed relevant by getting TV time, even if it's just the match versus Jade Cargill where she gets squashed. But it's still nice to see her on TV, that they use her at least.
Yeah. Well, that's what the Miz always said as well. It's about staying relevant. It's about making the most of your minutes. Like again, the Miz has been one of those who I love the Miz. I think he's incredible, but like he could easily have been like this mid-carder that just faded off into the background and got released. But he's like every time he's on TV, he maximizes his minutes. He maximizes like whatever he's given to do, whatever the remit is, he does it and he smashes out of the park.
He does well with his promos. When my hand goes up, your mouth goes shut.
Well, so, I mean, I think he's really underrated because he was a solid heel, a despicable, despised heel for years. And then he had one promo with Gunther where Gunther bullied him. And then he's a babyface. He's just turned instantly, the crowd immediately behind him. And then since then, with DIY, with R-Truth, etc., it's kind of continued. But if you think about it, to go like such a character change with one promo, that's impressive.
And like, I remember Miz being WWE champion and that girl like in the crowd getting mad, like the Miz angry girl, I think her name was. Like that's what I remember, and I would emotionally be pissed when he would win, like back then. So if he could grab my emotions like that off of like just a match, like he's doing a great job. And at the end of the day, that's what keeps you relevant, is how you're able to play with people's hearts, whether it's in a good way or bad way. Usually in the bad way is what gets the most like engagement, because now you could be yourself. Now you could talk crap to people. Now you could do all the stuff and just make them boo you. Dominic Mysterio, he's going far in the business. That man is getting all the boos. That man is going to be world champion, and I'm going to freaking love it every single moment.
Yeah. He's a workhorse as well. I mean, I'm sure because like WWE, they tour week to week as well. but I think it was either last year or the year before. Dominic Mysterio main evented Raw, NXT, and SmackDown all in the same week, and he still did his tour commitments and all of this stuff.
He loves the business. You could tell. You can tell he loves the business. You can tell he's taken like inspiration from his father, even though he calls him a deadbeat. But you can tell Dominic loves this business, and he's gonna go very far. I hope he does, and I know he will. Like WWE sees what he does, and they're gonna reward him for it eventually, especially being Ray's son. So I could see him one day being Mr. Money in the Bank, and have the Judgment Day have the briefcase again. Maybe cashing on Cody. That might be pretty awesome. Cashing on Cody and Dominic's. That would be the biggest heat you ever get. The man who beat Roman Reigns at 1,316 days getting cashed in on by Dominic.
Well, I saw a few people that were booking that for WrestleMania. That so instead of Damian Priest cashing in on Drew McIntyre, which what happened, that they were going to do it on Cody, and I was like, if you want a man to be hated by the entire internet, then yes, have Damian Priest cashing in Cody Rhodes straight away. But
people would have. I think Philadelphia would have rioted. They would have had a big riot outside if Cody got cashed in on the same moment he got Damian cashes in. But I personally think Damian probably would have said no if they told him to do it, because they know he would have had that heat, and that's a different type of heat. It's fine if he cashed in on Drew McIntyre. Everybody's gonna love that. Even if it was Rollins, they would have still probably cheered. But Cody, after just finishing his story, that's not, it's like people wanting to beat the Undertaker streak. There were people that passed it down. They were like, nope, I don't want it, because the amount of hate that they're gonna get was absolutely insane. I think Brock Lesnar was the good person to do it, whether or not it was intentional or not.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've got around to WrestleMania. We've got around to the main event. I was going to ask you, because it is arguably, by all the metrics, the biggest WrestleMania of all time.
Correct.
And I don't know if it's the greatest all time because it's so subjective and nostalgia. But me and my friends, we did a watch party both nights. Stayed up in the UK all the way through, and we had an amazing time. It was such a fantastic show. The card was so strong, top to bottom, and those two main events, night one, night two, that night two main event, with just everything that happened, was incredible. What did you think of WrestleMania 40?
It was easily the best of all time. And you said, it's objective. People have their thoughts. There are people in my comments saying that 17 was the best. There have some people saying otherwise, which is fine. Everybody has their thoughts on it. People have been watching wrestling for different times, different eras. So, I'm not going to argue with people over that. If you think one's better, then one's better. I personally think that 40 was the best one. It gave me the most emotion. As a kid, you react to wrestling finishes and matches different than as an adult, especially as a content creator, because you're following the storyline much better, and the speculation now with social media comes into play. So I felt like this WrestleMania was one of my favorites as an adult, because I really got to be invested in it and just enjoy it without any limitation. So seeing Cody win, seeing Roman cry, seeing Samantha cry, Michael Cole cry, seeing all of these people get emotional. Rollins was crying, and seeing Roman and Rock just walk away was such a good moment. The crowd was chanting 1, 2, 3, and I really felt that. Michael Cole saying, "Damn it, I love pro wrestling." When they don't even say pro wrestling anymore, but now that they're changing that, it was just like, this is really it. Like, we got what we wanted. So it was definitely one of the best. They opened up both nights perfect with the matches that they did, whether it was the Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, or if it was Rollins versus Drew. Those both matches were fantastic. Even the cash-in was amazing. So they knew what they were doing. Both main events were great, of course, with night 2 being one of the best of all time. And then the matches in between even were good too. There were some exceptions like Jimmy J, but I think overall it was a fantastic show. And it's very hard to beat that going into this coming year, this upcoming next season of wrestling. where now they got to build up everybody again for WrestleMania 41.
Yeah. And it's not just another WrestleMania, it's the first Netflix WrestleMania. So
correct. Yes. Correct.
Like it's gotta be special for that. I mean, it's gonna be the WrestleMania with the widest reach, because I think outside of the US, I'm not sure what the plan is in the US, but like for the UK, I know, just because I'm biased and that's where I am, they're gonna put every PLE onto Netflix. And so if they're doing that in every territory around the world, and Netflix has 280 million people, so 280 million people around the world are going to have WrestleMania as part of their subscription package. Just show up, like that's
and it's ad free.
Yeah.
With the US, we have Peacock. You guys have the network.
Yeah.
Peacock has different tiers of payment that you can do. You have the cheapest one, which is like I think $3 US a month, but that has ads. So whenever the packages come up, video packages for like let's say Logan, Kevin, Randy, those people don't see that. They see the ads. But then you can go like a tier up, which is the pro version, where you see where there's no ads and you see the video package. With Netflix, unless they decide to start doing ad-based pay plans like subscriptions, it's ad free for everybody. And like you said, there's over 200 million subscribers on Netflix. Like, you're going to have so many people able to watch this show that the viewership is going to be better than the one before.
Yeah.
Just because of the accessibility. Because people didn't want to do Peacock just for one show, but most people have Netflix. And even if you don't, I'm sure there's some way you're watching it or you're sharing a password with somebody.
Yeah, and I think if Netflix stay without commercial, I'll be really interested to see how it changes the product, because a lot of it, like, I mean, we talk about like a 3-hour show, a 2-hour show, they're always like breaking for commercial. So like, you know, there's always that spot in the match where kind of they know they're going into commercial, so they do that big spot.
Yeah,
and then
they do the big spot and then like we'll be returning. Yeah.
And so if you get rid of that, like what happens to the matches? What happens to the flow of the show? Like, do we have some Raws that finish at like 2 hours 45 and others that finish at 3 hours 20 because that's just what the story needs it to do? Like, we don't, when The Rock comes back and takes an hour to do a promo, we don't have to cut the show short. We can just keep going. Like, but for you as a content creator, are you excited about the move to Netflix and the possible boom in the audience? Because you got to think that if they go to Netflix and if all the hype is true around TKO and what Triple H is saying, that they're only just getting started. Like, it's the best, it's the biggest WrestleMania. It's the sold out this tour. And in the UK, like, they've done a full-on arena tour, like 15,000 seat arenas sold out for house shows. And that's just the UK, just 4 nights. Take it global. Like, I've no doubt this is going to like get exponentially bigger. So from you as a content creator, are you what are you expecting from that? So say next year, like, how, like, are you doing anything different? Are you thinking of doing anything different to get ready for that?
Well, the one thing I'm excited about is that with the move to Netflix, wrestling is, like, you already know, wrestling has become way more mainstream than it was last year. Just because of the presence of so many superstars and storylines and just investment from fans as a whole. I think Netflix is going to exponentially increase that engagement because now non-wrestling fans have access to it. They're going to be scrolling through and they're just going to be like, oh, look, let's just check Raw. And it's going to make it even more mainstream. So that makes me excited because now there's going to be more people to discuss wrestling with versus now. Even now we have a lot of people, but like even then when we do move, more people are going to be interested in the product, and that's good for business and that's good for the content creators to talk about with that. Am I prepping for anything different? Right now, when I do my reaction streams, I just have it on my, because like I use my cable provider because I have TV, like with the channels that are USA for Raw and then Fox for SmackDown. So I just pull up the website because they allow you to watch it on the computer. That's how I do my reaction streams. The only downside is now I have to pay for Netflix.
Okay.
My fiance has Netflix, but she has like the cheapest one, so it only allows 2 devices. They're both used right now, so I'll have to get my own. I'm sure WWE will do a promo though, like as we get closer to it, be like, oh, get your first month of Netflix for free, so you could watch Royal Rumble. I could see that happening.
Oh yeah,
and then like you can continue, and then you continue subscription.
Well, are you signed up to the network? Like, or is it Peacock? Because they close the network.
It's Peacock. It's Peacock for us,
right?
So, they close network in the US. It's US only. Okay. I mean, US only for Peacock. Everywhere else is network right now.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So for me in the UK, it's £9 So it's like $10 a month.
They still kept that. They still kept that promo from back when Triple H was advertising it. $9.99.
So whatever the exchange rate is, it's like $10 a month, and get the entire back catalog, get every NXT at the moment,
yes,
and get every premium live event as well, which I find hilarious because we've got like our sports channels here who have the rights to WWE. They try to sell box office for like the big pay-per-views. Like every month they try and sell it for like £30 or £40 a month. So well, just get the network for £10 a month and you get everything. It doesn't make any sense.
That's like us with pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Well, we don't do pay-per-views anymore for WWE. WWE just only does that. They are not allowed to do pay-per-views anymore.
Oh wow, okay.
It's just better to do Peacock or network.
Okay.
For AEW though, they're still on pay-per-view because they don't have like a TV deal, like a streaming deal with like any of those, or HBO Max, which is what the rumor's been forever, is that AEW will go there. But as of right now, there's nothing. So they got no choice but to do it on pay-per-view or Fight TV, I think it is one of the other websites you can get it on.
Yeah.
Those are like the main ones.
Yeah. No, I tried to watch AEW because I do try to dip in and out, and genuinely your video that you did whatever time you posted it about the Will Ospreay Daniel Bryan match Dynasty, I am going to try and find that some way, like from what you said and some other things I've heard it's an incredible match. I need to try and find that somewhere.
I'll message you where I usually find stuff afterwards. The way I watched it was somebody had it on TikTok. So I was just watching it there.
Okay.
Like they just point their phones at their TV and just let it play. And they pay for it. And then like if anybody wants to help support, they can gift on TikTok.
Okay. Because I know AEW are quite strict about pulling things down. A lot more than WWE.
That's why no one.
Yeah.
WWE doesn't care, but AEW, if you do a reaction stream to it, people have done it in the past, and apparently now they're starting to like track it down and be like, nah, take it down or we'll demonetize you or whatever. So like people just stopped. The way I did it when I went to Revolution was because I was there in person, I just recorded, which doesn't count because it's not the full show. It's just you're there just filming with your regular phone. So those have been fine. But if you like actually stream it, you're screwed. Yeah.
And as a content creator, I've found this just with I was streaming me playing 2K24. 2K24 came out. I was playing it on the night of release, the standard version, so on the Friday night, and I was playing through the WrestleMania showcase mode. And for some reason,
I hate it so much.
For some reason, TikTok kept flagging me for copyright. And I was like, "What?" Like, and I'm seeing everybody else like they're streaming 2K24.
Because of the intro, that's what it is. You know the I always get flagged for that on YouTube. And I end up having to trim it off. That's what it is. They think you're streaming the actual show. So if you're doing it on TikTok, you have to play. So first off is the music, depending on what's like the Post Malone album that's on there. You might have to turn off the music on there. And then when you load up the game on TikTok Studio, do it after the intro. Do it when Cody Rhodes and the press start button are there. Those are the ways you'll get past that.
Okay. So I think that's really good and really helpful. And I think I will do that, and I did start doing that, but I think what also got me was when you play the showcase, they sometimes play like 2-3 clips.
The clips,
match. and I think that it was like, you know, because I'm effectively watching the Undertaker versus
Yeah,
Brock
the
Lesnar
show.
at
Yeah.
WrestleMania, then it flags us. But the point was that they see that and they ban you from live for like an hour, and then it's another hour as a warning, and then they ban you for a day, and then they just kick you off. So if people are trying to stream AEW and AEW kind of flag them, that can be really serious hit to people's channels.
Yeah, agreed. And unfortunately, there's not really a way to like go around that unless you like unshare your screen during those like little moments where Bret Hart is throwing Stone Cold over the turnbuckle, like actually doing it, because
Yeah.
TikTok doesn't know.
Yeah.
I've had to dispute a few things with 2K, and they usually approve it. I tell them this is part of the game. I'm not actually streaming the show, and they look at it and they approve it. But it's just annoying that you have to do that in order to like get full access back.
I could literally keep talking to you for ages, but I want to be respectful of your time. I know you've got work to get back to. The time difference means that you've, you know, jumped on this call in the middle of the day, so I genuinely really appreciate that.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
I think we need to do this again because there's so much more we can dig into about content streaming, about 2K24, about going to live shows, about, you know, I've got so many questions I wanted to get to in terms of what you thought about current storylines, favorite wrestlers, you know, what's going to happen with the draft. So many things to get into, but I do want to respect your time. So let's wrap this up and just have the floor to do some promo. Where can people find you? Like different channels, because you're everywhere. So how can people find you?
Well, I'll answer the question about favorite wrestler. Roman Reigns right now, John Cena all time. And I've gotten the pleasure to meet John Cena in person. He is a very nice person when I met him. I have not met Roman yet, but I still acknowledge him. So you can find me at Just Laying Down anywhere, honestly. Like social media, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, even Kick streaming, even though I haven't been on that in a while. Facebook. Just look up Just Laying Down. At Just Laying Down, you'll find me. I do a lot of the reaction streams. I do wrestling predictions. I will do funny wrestling skits. I will make random cap cut memes and tag myself on it. I try to do everything so I could be relevant in any kind of wrestling space possible. I'm usually live on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. And I usually do either SmackDown streams or I'll play WWE 2K24. And that's what I usually do. And then TikTok, I'm live whenever I feel like it, honestly. There's no schedule for that. So whenever I can, I'll just get on. But those are where you can find me. And if you like wrestling content, make sure to give us a follow.
Absolutely. Mate, you're the WWE of content creators, just everywhere. You're catching everybody on every channel, just like Monday, Thursday, Wednesday. That's incredible.
If there's one thing that I'll say, like to end it, you have to be everywhere. Otherwise, like, you're nowhere. That's my thoughts. Like either everywhere or you're nowhere, because you got to be to the point where it's almost annoying, where like if your friends are messaging you saying, yo, JLD, every time I open the app, your freaking face is on there. That means it's working. And if they like it and they're proud of you, then great. Then that means the stuff is working. If they get annoyed and they unfollow you, you're also still doing something right, because you're weeding out the people that don't believe in you. So that's my mindset when I try to post 1 or 2 times a day, or even 3 times a day. Like, screw what anybody may have to say in a negative limelight. I'm doing what I got to do to be relevant.
But that is a grind, and that is an effort. That is not anything to be taken lightly. Like the work involved to not just record, but to edit afterwards, to post across all those different platforms. Like, the struggle is real for that as well. So good for you, man. I wish you every success. Anybody who is watching and listening to this, because I am going to clip this up. I am going to put this on YouTube. I am going to put this on TikTok. I am going to put this out on Spotify as audio only. Go follow JLD. Go follow Just Laying Down. He's fantastic. This, yes, we acknowledge our tribal chief.
Always.
We have to get into, at some point in the future, what's going on with Solo Sikoa and Roman. The tribal heir is usurping the throne and trying to become the tribal chief. There's something going on. But we'll leave it there. We'll leave you wanting more. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. This has been Imagine the Pop, a wrestling podcast, a very special episode, one of many of these interviews. I hope you've enjoyed it. Let us know what you think. You know, you can find us on TikTok, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Twitch as well. When I'm there, at Imagine the Pop is the same handle everywhere else. Thank you for joining us. Have an amazing day.